Hey, thanks for tuning in. So in this video, I want to go over how you can use the Armature 9 art mannequins for sculpting. And what you're seeing me do here is undoing an old sculpt that I did over a very old version of the Ranger armature. I think this armature is from 2013. And taking the clay off is simply a matter of just pulling it off and then maybe dabbing it on and off to try to recapture as much of that clay as you want to reuse. And of course, depending on the clay you're using, you could also wash these pieces because they're made with plastic. That said, because they're made with plastic, they're not really suited for baking, and so the Armature 9 mannequin is not really something you want to put in the oven because otherwise the pieces will melt. But if you're using a clay that hardens to the point where you can use it to capture molds from, then it's perfect, because then you can take the clay off and repurpose the armature either just as an art mannequin for drawing or continue using it for your sculptural studies. So here I am putting the pieces back together and showing that the armature is still functional as an armature despite having been holding that clay for years, and it was not damaged. So what I'm using here is monster clay, and you can find that online very easily. It's a pretty well-known clay, and if you microwave it, it softens it to the point where it becomes really malleable. You just want to be very careful with microwaving because it can get very hot, and so I would recommend starting with 10 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, depending on how much clay you've put in there. The beauty of the Armature 9 mannequin is that it provides, even though it's very skeletal and thin, it has a lot more volume than a traditional wire mannequin, and so when you're posing it, you don't need the big awkward pipe that's plugging into the back to hold it up, because the armature can actually hold its own weight up. I am helping it a little bit by anchoring the feet in some clay that allows me to keep the placement of the feet from moving around on me, and it also sort of attaches it to the plastic platform that I'm working on. At this point, I'm sort of refining the pose because so much of the volumes are there. Unlike when you're working with wire, it's very easy to to gauge what the pose is actually going to look like before you even add any clay to it. And so I would suggest really taking your time with the posing of the armature and trying to nail that down as best you can. Now you can still adjust, do these micro refinements to the posing, as you'll see later after the clay is completely on it, but you want to get as much of that nailed down as possible. When I start adding the volumes of clay over to the mannequin, I deliberately focus on those areas where there's articulation and where I don't want things to move on me. So I'm adding volumes to like where the joints connect, essentially. And at this point, it's just a matter of continuing to build volumes over the mannequin. And so I'm just going to not talk anymore and just let you watch.